Welcome to the Minding Minds podcast. I'm Dave Russell of TheMindCoach.ie and criticalfrequencycoaching.com, and the Minding Minds podcast helping us to build mental resilience in everyday life. And as part of this podcast, I'm interviewing people who have or are about to take on some phenomenal challenges and are able to demonstrate massive amounts of mental resilience. And I'm sitting here with a very special guest today, Gregor McGuckin. And rather than me explain what Gregor is about to take on, I'll ask him. Gregor, what is it that you're about to do in the next month?
In a month's time, or just over a month's time, I'll be leaving to hopefully sail solo non-stop around the world. It'll take about 8 months in an older boat without any modern sort of technology, excluding sort of safety.
Non-stop around the world. 8 months.
That's it.
What on earth is motivating you to do this?
That is a good question. I suppose it's a combination of things. Sailing goes, it's my career, so it's kind of the pinnacle of what you can do. It's seen as the Everest of sailing, if you want to call it that. So I suppose it's the ultimate challenge, and one of the ultimate challenges in sailing. And then that aside, it's the whole challenge of the organisation, the preparation, and of course the actual doing it as well. So it's a few motivating factors.
I know, as you say, it's a solo race, so you are actually going to be on your own, isolated for the whole race. So you're gonna leave here from Ireland, and the race starts from where's the race start?
So leaving Ireland now in about a week and a half, and the race starts and finishes in France. So we'll leave France, and I won't touch land again until back to France after travelling down the Atlantic, around the Southern Ocean, back up the Atlantic to France.
My goodness! I mean, it's from as I said to you the first time that I met you, I said I'm jealous, but I'm glad that it's you that's doing it and not me. And tell me this. This is going to be a physical challenge, but above all, this is probably more of a mental challenge as well. I mean, how have you been preparing for the mental challenge of spending 8 months alone?
I guess, yeah, you're right. It is way more of a mental challenge. I mean, a lot of the modern sort of racing boats, they're a lot faster, they're a lot lighter, things happen a lot faster. The boat I have, it's a much older boat. It's easy to sail for the most part. But it's slower, so that's hence the 8 months. So it's much more about it's a mind game about keeping myself motivated and to keep the boat working. So the boat gets the maintenance it needs, it gets the attention it needs. It keeps going at a reasonable rate. It's a race at the end of the day, so I have to keep it going fast. Preparation wise, how do you prepare for spending 8 months alone apart from doing it? So I suppose the way I'm looking at it is I'm making sure the boat's as ready as it can be. I've sort of been quite particular with how I want it set up. Make sure I have all the equipment I need on board as best as I can. Try not to forget anything. Lots of lists. And then I suppose the whole thing I found that you kind of you see this race as one giant object or being. It becomes very overwhelming. But if you break it into individual segments, it's all very, it's doable. You can see it. Or you could just bring, sail from there to there. Oh yeah, grand, I can do that. If you break it all like that, it's very achievable. So when you put it all together, it becomes quite overwhelming and the challenge becomes much greater. So I just try and keep it broken up in every single way possible, right down to the route planning, the food. The food's broken up into 10-day packets. So every 10 days, a new packet comes out. That's my food for the next 10 days. So everything's just broken up into those segments. Possible. Right.
So, this is interesting for the listeners to this podcast, dealing with various different challenges that they have either in their everyday life, whether it's their personal life or whether it's their work life. And the strategy that you are using to deal with that is you're saying, right, well, okay, I've done something similar in the past before, shorter journeys. So this is just like a whole load of those shorter journeys together. So I'm breaking it down in my mind into kind of consumable chunks that I know that I can do. And that the larger job, the larger journey is just all of those put together.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think the best way to look at it is from a food perspective, because everybody does their shop, be it like every couple of days or every week. You try and plan for we're budgeting for 9 months of food. How are you going to plan for 9 months of food? It's really easy. Plan for 10 days of food, which it's a little over a week, and then just multiply it. So everybody can plan for 10 days of food, and it makes it very, very manageable. So you just try and do that with everything.
And what's the biggest challenge, mental challenge, that you think that you're going to have over the 8 months
I think it'll be the isolation. I think it'll be being away from physical contact with people. I mean, I can talk to people via radio and talk to passing ships and talk to my competitors and talk to home occasionally, but that's all. It's all basically on the phone. It's that physical engagement, and that's what I'll be. That's what I think. I think that will be the biggest challenge. I think if you as I say, if you break it down, every little bit of I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable. It's when you put it all together, and then you've got the added strain of you've got to try and it's all well and good breaking it down, but then if you've got effectively baggage at the end of one of these things, it's how try not to carry it on to the next one. It's not as if you get a rest between them. So it's trying to come up with a way of tricking yourself into thinking you've had your rest at the end of each of these sort of leg.
How are you going to achieve that, do you think?
So a variety of things, so little treats at the end of it, and I set targets for each of the legs. So I want to, looking at the prevailing wind conditions and weather, I set myself from wherever to wherever. I want to aim to do it in this amount of time. So it's a small, manageable goal over sort of a week, 2 weeks tops. So it's got a start and a finish. So I'm basically breaking the whole thing into start and finish. So then it's a pat in the back, or right, try harder next time kind of thing, and it resets and go again. It's just trying to reset it as many ways as possible. So it feels like, and then that whole thing of, it's not, everything doesn't reset every 10 days. So the passage might reset every 2 weeks. The food will reset every 10 days. So it's kind of overlapping. So there's a period, a couple of times a week I'll come to the end of something and then I'll be taking out a new pack for something else. So it's like ticking off the boxes as you go. And
celebrating then at...
Celebrating wins, crossing the equator, rounding the capes, a couple of fine bottles of whiskey on board and a bit of rum maybe, and that kind of thing. Celebrating the small things.
Well, and what's the thing you're most looking forward to?
Getting the boat over the start line, and that's it. I've done it now. I've managed to get there, and then it's on to the next stage. So this sort of over 2 years in the preparation, and this last year has been pretty much 24/7. So I think getting over that start line, it'll be it almost feels like that's a finish line at this stage. So I think that'll be looking forward to that.
Now you're going to have a load of challenges that you're going to have to deal with that you've planned for, and there are those things that you won't have planned for. Things are going to go wrong, as they always do when you're on a boat. How do you pick yourself up again after things go wrong? What's your strategy?
I think when things go wrong, you take a look at it and go, right, why did it go wrong? Sometimes it's just unlucky. Sometimes shouldn't have done that, or I got a bit lazy there. And it's just about recognizing that and basically going back and analyzing why. All right, okay, well, that was my fault. That was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. As happens, like everybody does that. And then it's just trying to manage it so it doesn't happen again, or minimizes the risk of it happening again.
But from a mental point of view, when you're going to get when things go wrong, and your mental state changes as a result, have you a way of picking yourself up, or what is it that you do to get yourself to remotivate yourself, to pick yourself up and move forward?
Well, I suppose it comes back to the goal setting. So for each of these, the overall goal is to get to the finish line. Well, the overall goal is to win the race, but let's be realistic: to get to the finish line first, and then we'll worry about that. Then then the next goal is down and sort of breaking it up into smaller chunks, and then it might be you break it so far down if you're having a really shitty day. You break it so far down, right, I'm going to go down and make myself a meal or make myself a cup of coffee or something like that. And then you just get that into your head and then just go and do it. And then it's like, right, that's checked off the list. What's next? And then sort of next goal might be something a little bit more. Right, let's go, pull down the sail or repair this or whatever, change the sails, get the boat going in the right direction, whatever it might be. Something small that you can do in a minute or two, and then right, what's next, and try and gradually build it up that way. And it's like a jobs list. You're just ticking it off, but you're kind of dynamically managing it to suit your mental state, I suppose.
So really, what you're saying is, it's kind of taking action. So when things go wrong and you're feeling down, it's a case of taking action, getting back in there, ticking things up. It's not a case of sitting there and wallowing in it and dwelling on it. It's literally, we got to move forward.
Say if you we'll just break one thing down, say crossing, I don't know, from the Canaries to the Cape Verdes, that leg, something disastrous happens. The goal for that leg is to get to the end of it. All of a sudden, this becomes the overall picture if you imagine it like that. And then all of a sudden, something's gone wrong, so it becomes overwhelming because I'm not going to make my goal. So just break it down more until you're at a level that it's comfortable with, and then try and start building it back up again, basically.
So kind of chunking down. Right. So you're looking at a large goal being a leg. And if we're being overwhelmed at that, we're chunking down until we get to a size where it's consumable for us. We can deal with that. Yeah. And then we've got a more series of small.
Basically building a platform to build it back up again.
This is very interesting because this is something that people can do in any walk of life. It's not just when we find ourselves in a stressful situation or we have a challenge at work or in our personal life, we find that sometimes the chunk is too big for us. When we're faced with a task that we have to do, a job we have to do, the chunk is too big for us. So we have to kind of chunk down to a smaller, more manageable size. And that gives us a path for moving forward. In terms of preparation, I mean, you're nearly there in terms of you've got a couple of more weeks to go. Say nearly there, you're smiling. I mean, there's obviously plenty more work still to be done.
Maybe another 2 months, but
obviously now you've had kind of 2 years of preparation going into this race, and it's all coming down to the next couple of weeks. So is the start line a point of more work, or is there a degree of relief in getting to the start line?
Massive relief. It feels like a finish line.
Okay, and why is that? Is that because of the volume, the sheer volume of preparation that's actually had to go into doing this?
Yeah, definitely. It's just a huge amount of preparation involved in just getting everything ready and right, and the boat ready, and myself as ready as I can be, all the supplies on board, the spares. There's so much to think about, and so much to get right. Once I leave, I can't take on anything. I can't pull in for anything I forgot. That's it. So getting to the start line, getting over that, ticked all the boxes. I passed the safety inspections that were quite lengthy and rigorous. The race organisers want us to do so. At this stage, it feels like the finish line. The amount of work we put in is all about getting to the start line. And after that, it's almost like, well, on to the next challenge. But at this stage, it's looking like a holiday. The first bit might be the first couple of weeks, warm weather.
And in terms of what you think about now when you think about completing the race, what's the kind of overriding vision that you have in your mind when it's done? Can you see yourself crossing the finish line? And when you do cross the finish line, what's next, or how are you going to celebrate? And is that motivating you?
Put my feet up, relax a bit. I think. Or at this stage, it feels like that. But sure, I don't know. It's at the moment. As I say, at the moment, the start line feels like the finish line. It didn't always, but I think it is at the moment. I think my idea of the finish line will drastically change over the coming year and throughout the race. I would say it will look very much like a traditional finish line in quite a quick amount of time.
So if I was to kind of summarize, I suppose the mental strategy that you use for dealing with stressful situations is kind of a two-step strategy. The first is action, moving straight into action. And then it's kind of chunking down and saying, right, well, what have I got to do here? If that overwhelms me, okay, can I chunk down? Smaller chunk, can I do that? Is that overwhelming? If so, we chunk down again until we find the point of action, or the chunk that we can act on. We do that and we move forward from there. So would that be correct to say it's that kind of two-step strategy?
Yeah, I guess so. I think, when everything's kind of piling on or things are going wrong, just try and identify what's the biggest thing to take care of first. So you don't just dive into it, just kind of what's the biggest problem, whatever it may be, and then just look at that and then just break that item down until it's, sometimes it might be just something as simple as, you're having a crappy day and something come loose, or you spilled something and just cleaning it up, or it might be something way more challenging. But it's just about identifying that and then just getting that little thing done. And then building it from there. It's like it's just like a checklist, really.
So what's the one thing that I can do now that is going to have the greatest impact for me?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Trying to, I'm feeling, you're feeling bad and overwhelmed or whatever, it's completely counterproductive to feel like that. So I just try and figure out a way of stopping myself feeling. So, quite a lot. There's so much going on at in the preparations. It does kind of feel quite overwhelming at times. If you look at the big picture, it's very overwhelming. So I just try and break it down into smaller bits as much as possible. And if I do get that feeling of being overwhelmed, I try and identify the one item that's causing me the most hassle or grief, and then just try and kick it in the shins as quick as I can. So sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and you're half asleep, you panic over something, and then just address it then and there, and then back to sleep in about half an hour. No, you might even address it. You might just kind of have a look at it and go, okay, right, you work out how to do it or how to address it better than you would have before. You don't necessarily have to tick it off. You just go, but it's still moving forward on getting that problem solved or getting that job done. It's progress. It's even just a tiny little bit of progress can make a huge difference.
And so you're leaving it's in July, the start?
Leaving Ireland in a week and a half, so it's at the 8th of June. And then there's a big build-up in France to the start, and a lot of more panicked final preparations.
So that'll put you back home or crossing the finish line March of 2019, roughly, is it?
End of February. End of February is the goal. We'll see.
And will you do us a favour? Will you come back and talk to us when you return? And when you return as the first Irishman to sail solo around the world, which will be an absolutely incredible and phenomenal achievement for, I never even, how old are you?
31.
31. So a phenomenal achievement for anybody, but extra phenomenal achievement for somebody so young. I'd be absolutely delighted if you come back and tell us, maybe talk through a few of the challenges that you had and how you actually went about managing them from a mental resilience point of view. I'd be thrilled, and I know everybody listening to this would also be thrilled.
Yeah, no bother at all. Delighted.
Super. And listen, I want to just, from me and from everybody listening to this podcast, I want to wish you all the very best of luck and safe return, and be delighted for catching up with you again. So that was Gregor McGuckin, and actually, can the listeners follow you? Or how can people follow you?
Yeah, we have a website. It's gregormcguckin.com, and then there's a Facebook and Instagram and all the other social medias. The boats are tracked as well, 24/7. So there's an app you can download which just shows. I'm not sure the name of the app. It'll be linked to on all the social media and the website, so you can sort of follow the progress of my boat and all the other competitors, and how everybody's getting on, news and everything.
Super. Well, we'll be following you keenly. So once again, thank you very much, and best of luck. And that's everything from this episode of the Minding Minds podcast. As ever, you can catch all of our new episodes on YouTube, on SoundCloud, and on iTunes. So click the button to subscribe, and we'll be back shortly with the next episode. Thank you very much.